The death of Bhishma was scripted decades before it actually happened, by his own actions that had caused great agony to a princess he had abducted for the marriage of his half brother, Prince Vichitravarya. When Bhishma was the young prince of Hastinapur, his father, King Shantanu, a widower, wanted to be a householder again. The woman he had set upon his life and wanted to marry demanded that Bhishma should not rival her to be the progeny for the status of her apparent. Bhishma on that day made a very tough vow to never marry and to remain celibate. Vichitravarya soon turned to an age that the future king of Hastinapur would marry now. Bhishma heard of a Swayamvar arranged by the king of Kashi, present day Varanasi, for the wedding of his three daughters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Bhishma gallantly rode up to Kashi and carried away all three princesses to become the wives of his half brother. Amba, however, kept on urging to let her go, as she and King Salva of Saubala were secretly in love, and Amba had promised to place the Varmala in his neck during the Swayamvara. However, on reaching Hastinapur, Bhishma let her go when she refused to marry the Kuru prince. When she returned to Saubala king Salva, he refused to marry her as she was being abducted by another man. Heartbroken, shamed, and sad, Amba then proceeded to severe penance. Seething inside that the act of senior Kuru prince Bhishma had destroyed her life, she sought revenge. She was devastated that Bhishma had carried her away, though he himself was having a pledge to celebrate his entire life. The gods were happy to give her a penance and granted her with a garland, which, when worn by someone, would enable to kill Bhishma. But Bhishma was so reverted and feared in that era that no man agreed to wear the garland. Amba herself could not use it as she was a woman and could not beckon Bhishma to fight. But before dying heartbroken, she hung the garland on the door of King Drupad's palace. The king was childless. Soon the king got three children through Yagya. The eldest was Amba, reborn as Shikhandi. The doctors and the astrologers could not decide whether the baby was boy or girl. She was neither man nor woman. She was brought up as a boy but could not claim manhood only when a Yaksha lent her his male form after Shikhandi's marriage. Until that, her gender was not known. Shikhandi, the Amba of last birth, had two siblings, Draupadi and Drishtadumna. Both of them were twins. Draupadi married Arjuna, who was a son of Ambalika and Pandu. On the 10th day of the war between Pandavas and Kauravas, during the battle at Kurukshetra, the invisible, impeccable Bhishma was proving to be much of an enemy, and Lord Krishna, also the charioteer of Arjuna, considered that Bhishma must die for Arjuna to have a headway in war. But how could Arjuna even take an aim at Bhishma when he could not even lower his weapons? They thought quickly. Arjuna hid behind Shikhandi, seeing whom Bhishma lowered his weapons. Not to strike at a woman, Arjuna saw the window of opportunity as Bhishma lowered his bow and arrow. He sent forth a valley of arrows that finally killed Bhishma in the Kurukshetra Bhumi.
Now let's see how Dronacharya was killed in Kurukshetra. In Mahabharata, Drishtadyumna was born to kill Dronacharya. Once King Drupad and Dronacharya studied in Bharadwaja ashramam. When they were friends, Drupad promised to give Drona half of his kingdom when he became king. After many years, Drupad became king of Panchal and Drona was in poverty. Remembering his friend, Drona went to Panchal to seek refuge and help from Drupad. But Drupad insults Drona and denies acknowledging him, which infuriates Drona. Feeling humiliated, Drona reached Hastinapur and became preceptor of Kauravas and Pandavas. When the time came for Gurudakshina, he asked to defeat Drupad and bring him near his feet. First, Kauravas go to Panchal but were defeated. Then the Pandavas go to Panchal. Arjuna defeats Drupad and brings him to Drona. Drona then takes half of the kingdom from Drupad and makes his son Ashwatthama as king. Drupad, however, was humiliated by Drona and wanted revenge on him. He wanted a son who can kill Drona. So he, with the help of Upajaya, performed a yajna in which he asked for a son who can kill Dronacharya. Then in that yajna was born Drishtadyumna to kill Drona. During Kurukshetra war, at a point when Drona As the Kuru commander is killing vast number of Pandava troops, Krishna advises Yudhishthira to adopt a plan to kill Drona, as it is known that as long as Drona has raised his weapons, he is invincible to all other warriors, and to achieve this, it was advised that it would be a lie about Ashwatthama, the son of Drona. As Yudhishthira continues to hesitate to lie, his brother Bhima kills a known elephant in the Kuru religions called Ashwatthama and celebrates by shouting. Then Krishna tells Yudhishthira to tell Ashwatthama Atah Kunjaraha but Mattar Kunjarha. The word meaning is Ashwatthama Hataha. Ashwatthama is died and Kunjara means elephant. Yudhishthira says that, and Drona believes that the sons of Dharma will not lie and lays down his arms, falls into grief, and sits in meditation by believing the words of Yudhishthira. Drishtadyumna takes this opportunity, swings onto Drona's chariot, and chops off his head.
During the Kurukshetra war, Abhimanyu fought by his father's side. On the 13th day of the war, the mightiest Kaurava warriors came together and formed the Chakrayuha. The young Abhimanyu was able to penetrate it, but could never make his way out, and was slain inside it, fighting them all alone. There were some people over there: Duryodhan, Dushasan, Dronacharya, Ashwadhama, Sekuni, and Karna. Karna got down from his chariot to free the wheel and asked Arjuna to pass, reminding him of etiquette of war. But Krishna spurred Arjuna to attack Karna, reminding the way Karna killed Abhimanyu by stabbing him from behind, which are against the rules of the war. It was part of his plan for Abhimanyu to die in battlefield at the age of 16 years. Abhimanyu was actually son of moon sent on it for this mission for only 16 years. So there was no point of Krishna saving Abhimanyu. The death was only destiny of Abhimanyu's life.
The unarguably most powerful man in the Mahabharata. He is a key warrior, tragic hero in the Mahabharata. He known as Dhanavira Sura Karna. In fact, even Arjuna couldn't defeat Karna all by himself. During the war of Kurukshetra, due to curses caused Karna's death. Karna's two curses given by his teacher Parshurama and by a Brahmin resulted in his defeat of Arjuna and ultimately led to his death during the battle in the Mahabharata. Karna, after being rejected by Dronacharya, he decided to learn about the Brahmastra from Parshurama. But there is one problem. Parshurama only taught Brahmins. Karna was not a Brahmin either. Thus, Karna presented himself before Parshurama as a Brahmin without revealing his true identity. Parshurama soon learned that Karna was not a Brahmin and became very angry that Karna lied to him about being a Brahmin in greed for weapons. Parshurama curses Karna he will engage in fight with someone equal to him in strength and skill when his death comes. Brahmin's curse. Once while in the hermitage of Parshurama, Karna wandered alone by the sea with his sword and bow. Karna started practicing his archery skills with his bow and arrows, but by accident he killed a Brahmin's cow. The Brahmin became angry. He cursed for being killed by his enemy when his attention was diverted in the middle of the battle. The Brahmin said, "O watchman, when you fight against your enemy, disturbed because the wheels of your chariot have been eaten by the earth, he will show his courage and cut off your head. O fool, leave this place. Just as you are annoyed when you act against me, others will chop and drop your head when you are disturbed." Shanti Parva Mahabharata. Later, during his battle with Arjuna, when Karna was busy removing the wheels of his chariot, which was stuck in the mud. During this time, he was shot by Arjuna on the advice of Krishna. So that's how two curses impacted Karna's faith, but in the end, it was his actions that resulted in his downfall and death in the Kurukshetra war in the Mahabharata.
Vidura is sent to invite the Pandavas to visit Hastinapura and play a dice game there. Yudhishthira accepts the invitation. Both Dhritarashtra and Yudhishthira ignores Vidura's warning to avoid the game, which may result to a destructive consequence. Sekuni was confident that he could defeat Yudhishthira easily, and thus Duryodhana could fulfill his ill motive of outdoing the Pandavas. Before the dicing, a lot of discussions were there, but Yudhishthira is obliged to play. but Shakuni comes into play for Duryodhana. During the dicing event, Dhritarashtra takes his wealth, jewelry, Indraprastha, and the belongings of his brothers one by one and loses one by one. Shakuni mocks and provokes Dhritarashtra at each stage and demands to stake. At this moment of his complete defeat, including himself, Dhritarashtra is again mocked to stake Draupadi. Dhritarashtra stakes Draupadi and loses her also. There were strong reactions from the assembly when Dhritarashtra staked her. Draupadi questions the legality of staking her when she was forced and dragged in front of the assembly. Duryodhana orders Dushasana to disrobe her in front of the court. Dushasana begins to execute the act, but Draupadi cannot be bared. The Lord Krishna was executed his powers to help her. She is endowed with the divine grace of being in neutral to whatever extent the clouds are pulled by Dushasana. The strong Dushasana fails and becomes exhausted. The assembly stands stunned at the miracle. Bhima sends shivering signals by mouth that he will tear open the Dushasana's heart and drink the blood of him. And he shall break the tie of Duryodhana, on which Draupadi was tauntingly invited to sit. The invincible Draupadi, by the divine blessings, made Dhritarashtra still more afraid of the Pandavas. He asks the pardon of Draupadi and releases all that was won on the dicing events. Of course, dissatisfied at Dhritarashtra's act, Shakuni and Duryodhana once again played before Dhritarashtra for another dice game with Dhritarashtra. In second spell of dicing event, Dhritarashtra is again defeated and is forced to go on exile for 12 years. The condition is that they should live in forest and pass the 13th year of disguise without being identified by anybody. If they are identified by anybody during the period of disguise, they should repeat 12 years of exile in forest and the 13th year in disguise. Duryodhana became the de facto ruler of both Hastinapur and Indraprastha. The Pandavas are not alone in the forest, but are followed by many loyal Brahmins and servants. The future of the Pandavas was determined by the game of dice. They had to undergo plight and suffering due to their defeat in game. Dhritarashtra's temptation brought about that unexpected consequence. His wife Draupadi and his younger brothers fell victims to the horrible experience. The tragic fact of the kauravas was another consequence of this dice game. Gambling is an immoral action. It most often favors the evils. The gamblers do not hesitate to adopt unfair means to win the game anyhow. A man with morality is likely to get defeated in gambling. The ultimate result of the game of dice is the reason behind battle between the Pandavas and the Kauravas.
Pandava army. Seeing that there was no hope of peace, Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, asked his brothers to organize their army. The Pandavas accumulated 7 Akshaunis' army with the help of their allies. Each of these divisions were led by Drupada, Virata, Abhimanyu, Shikandi, Satyaki, Nakula and Sahadeva. After consulting his commanders, the Pandavas appointed Drishtadyumna as the supreme commander of the Pandava army. Drupada, Virata, Abhimanyu, Shikandi, Satyaki, Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhima, Drishtadyumna, Gatotkacha, Kuntiboja, Uppandavas and Arjuna were the prominent warriors of Pandava army. The Mahabharata says that kingdoms from all over ancient India supplied troops or provided logistic support on the Pandavas side. Some of these were Kekaya, Pandya, Magadha and many more. Kaurava army. The Kaurava army consisted of 11 Akshaunis. Duryodhana requested Bhishma to command the Kaurava army. Bhishma accepted on the condition that while he would fight the battle sincerely, he would not harm the 5 Pandava brothers. Also, Bhishma said that Karna would rather not fight under him but serve as Duryodhana's bodyguard as long as he was in the battlefield. Having little choice, Duryodhana agreed to Bhishma's conditions and made him the supreme commander of Kaurava army while Karna was debarred from fighting. But Karna entered the war later when Bhishma was severely wounded by Arjuna. Apart from the 100 Kaurava brothers headed by Duryodhana himself and his brother Dusasana, the Kauravas were assisted on the battlefield by Drona and his son Ashwadhama. The Kauravas' brother-in-law Jayadratha, the Brahmin Kripa, Krutavarma, Shalya, Sudikshina, Bhuhishwaras, Balika, Shakuni, Bhagadatta and many more who were bound by their loyalty towards either Hastinapura and Dhritarashtra. Now let's see the composition of one Akshauni. One Akshauni is equal to 10 Ankinis, which is equal to 21,870 elephants, 21,870 chariots, 65,610 horses, 1,09,350 foot soldiers, in the total 2,18,700 warriors, and Pandava army consisting of 7 Akshaunis, which is equal to 15,30,900 warriors, and Kaurava army consists of 11 Akshaunis, which is equal to 24,05,700 warriors. Thus, the total count of warriors who participated in the war are 39,36,600 warriors. Neutral parties. The kingdom of Bhojakata, with its king Rukmi, Vidura, the ex-prime minister of Astinapur, and younger brother to Dhritarashtra, and Balarama were the only neutrals in the war. Weaponry. During the Kurukshetra war, various types of weapons were used by prominent warriors as well as ordinary soldiers. The weapons included the bow, the mace, the sword, the lance, and the dart. Almost all prominent warriors used bows, including the Pandavas, the Kauravas, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Arjuna, and many more.